The dirt racer to NASCAR pipeline has been quite a reliable one in the history of stock car racing. It shouldn't be seen as peculiar either, given the early roots of NASCAR having top-flight races on dirt and legendary drivers succeeding on both dirt and pavement. They didn't make a game called Dirt to Daytona for nothing. From the early days of the sport, being well-versed in dirt was a requirement in order to compete for certain wins, as not every race was run on asphalt. As time passed, we saw more NASCAR superstars get their start on the loose surface, primarily multiple champions like Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart, who have a combined championship tally of 7 with a win tally of 142. However, 2 of NASCAR's best drivers right now are also very well tested on the dirt. And what's funny about today's video is that despite being 2 of NASCAR's best, their biggest rivalry is mostly away from stock car racing on asphalt. Their names are Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell, drivers of the number 5 Hendrick Chevrolet and the number 20 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota stock cars. 2 titans of the sport driving for 2 of the best teams in NASCAR. But today's rivalry takes us mostly away from all that. Today we will cover a war between 2 of America's best. Today we cover a war on dirt.
Bobby G on the beat.
My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and this is Bell vs. Larson, a war on dirt. In order to understand how 2 stock car stars ended up having all-timer squabbles on dirt, it's important that we go back through their journeys to where they are today. I'm gonna start with Larson because he's older and as a result started racing a lot sooner than Bell. Kyle Larson and Intern were both born on the same day, July 31, except he was born in 1992 compared to me in 2001. The Elk Grove, California-born future stock car racing sensation started out not on asphalt but on dirt. A young Kyle Larson would attend 50 races a year with his mom and dad and would get his first taste of racing with Outlaw karts after his father purchased one from a family in his neighborhood. From there, he began to rack up wins on the local dirt scene, slowly evolving into a phenom. From Outlaw karts to midgets, Kyle Larson, now given the nickname Young Money, was seemingly on course to become a lifer on dirt. His first ever sprint car race at Placerville Speedway in his home state of California was a pretty rocky one, with a teenage Larson being lapped and eventually crashing out after contact with another car. Despite this rocky start, Larson wasn't deterred and continued to race sprint cars, eventually flourishing and becoming one of the sport's top prospects. Larson's shining moment in dirt came when at just 19 years old he swept 3 of the 4 Crown Nationals at Eldora, winning in the midget, sprint, and silver crown features.
Before last night he'd never even seen Eldora's first feature and he'll put it in victory lane. Off the turn for his second career national sprint car win, Kyle Larson. Second man ever to do it. Kyle Larson sweeps the 4 Crown Nationals.
Larson's journey to become a dirt racing superstar was on a steady path, but that was before he got the opportunity to race stock cars on asphalt. Chip Ganassi brought Kyle along to his development program in 2012, which led Kyle to making starts in stock cars, eventually winning in his first go at New Smyrna. 2012 saw Kyle go on to become the K&N Series East champion and a winner in ARCA. This led to a full-time seat in the then nationwide series, now Xfinity, in 2013 with Turner Scott Motorsports, meaning Kyle left his many dirt rides, including his midget seat with Keith Kunz Motorsport, by the wayside. By mid-2013, Larson was confirmed to race in the Cup Series full-time the next year, replacing Juan Pablo Montoya in the number 42 Target Chevy. From there, the rest is history. Now, speaking of history, let's rewind to 2013 because when Kyle Larson left Keith Kunz Motorsport, the driver signed to fill the newly vacant seat was none other than our second protagonist, Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell hails from Oklahoma. He had multiple interests in sports growing up, including basketball because his dad was a coach, and football, the Yank kind. But once young Bell tried racing, he was hooked. Just trying racing made him stand out, as Oklahoma's racing background is nothing compared to that of an Indiana. This love can be attributed to his uncle William, who frequently took a 5-year-old Bell to dirt races. It was this same uncle that gave him the chance to start racing in a micro sprint, kickstarting his career. That career would rise similarly to Larson's, with Bell racking up much success on the lower ranks before eventually getting top dirt racing seats like the aforementioned midget seat with Keith Kunz. The Toyota ties that came along with that ride saw Bell flirting with the idea of racing on pavement. In 2014, those dreams became reality. Bell would dabble in some late model races while still dirt racing, and he'd find success in both, winning at New Smyrna, just like Larson did, among other tracks on pavement, while racking up plenty of midget wins and, more importantly, going on to score his very first win in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the highest level of 410 sprint car racing there is. More on that later. Bell would continue balancing dirt and asphalt in 2015, but that year things would merge in a funny way. Christopher Bell would compete in the NASCAR Truck Series in select races for Kyle Busch Motorsports, one of which was the Eldora Dirt Race. A week prior, he had wrecked at Kentucky in his first ever start on a 1.5 miles, but at Eldora, his dirt roots, he cooked and won in what was just his third ever start. This would lead to a full-time seat, which led to a Truck Series championship, which led to an Xfinity seat, which led to him setting the rookie record for most wins, which led to a Cup seat at Levine Family Racing, which led to a Cup seat at Joe Gibbs Racing, and from there, the rest is history. So now that we know how both got their starts, let's actually get into the rivalry. The best place to go to understand Bell versus Larson is back to Bell's home state of Oklahoma, because that's where the Chili Bowl is held, the biggest dirt midget race in the world, and one that both men saw as coveted and a must-win race. In 2017, the event set a record for the most entries ever, with 358 different drivers pulling up with their midgets to participate in the big race. That number eventually rose to 372. Before 2017, Christopher Bell's best finish in the Chili Bowl main event was a P3 in 2014. But come 2017, Bell was a contender through and through, while his teammate at Keith Kunz Racing, Kyle Larson, had struggles throughout the week and didn't even make it to Saturday night's A main after finishing P8 in his C main. Starting on outside pole, Bell kept himself in the fight for the win all race long, and after a great restart on lap 25, Bell would pass race leader Justin Grant and control the race from that point to the checkers to become the first Oklahoma native to win the Chili Bowl since Andy Hillenburg in 1994. 2018 comes around and Christopher Bell is looking to go back-to-back while Kyle Larson is trying to recover from last year's slump. Pulling no punches this time around, Kyle Larson locked himself into the big show on Tuesday with a victory in that night's preliminary main. Christopher Bell followed suit, winning Wednesday's A main, ensuring both men would be in the big show. These two would not only both make the Saturday main event, but they'd both start on the front row with their Keith Kunz iRacing sponsored midgets. Larson from pole rocketed into an early lead and a comfy one over Bell for the first 10 laps before a caution came out for a crash. Bell used the outside lane on the lap 11 restart to fly by Larson and assume the lead of the race. A few cautions and restarts later, Bell continued to lead but had the issue of lapped traffic. That lapped traffic allowed Kyle Larson to pounce and retake the lead of the race. Following another caution, Bell would start to gain on Larson's lead following the restart, but then it happened.
Yeah, he is. Oh, Larson! His engine puffs a big bunch of blue smoke and he is done. Wow. The Toyota goes dead right there.
Plumes of smoke bellowed out of Larson's midget. His engine was cooked, and from the lead of the Chili Bowl, he pulled into the infield and recorded a DNF in the A main. With no Larson to worry about anymore, Christopher Bell would take a second Golden Driller in a row to add to the momentum of becoming last year's Camping World Truck Series champion. To beat Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson would have to wait until 2019. Anyways, 2019 was a copy and paste type thing. Bell and Larson were both victorious in their respective midweek A mains and were once again locked into the big show. Logan Seavey started on pole this time around with Bell second and Larson third. Seavey controlled the race early but lost the lead to Larson near halfway. Bell would get by Seavey for P2 with around 20 laps to go, setting up yet another duel for the win between he and Larson. Following another restart, Bell found himself playing defense from Justin Grant and Brady Bacon in a fight for second as opposed to chasing the leading Kyle Larson, allowing the 0-1 to pull an even bigger lead. However, once Bell got out of that fight, he used the final 10 laps to pick away at Kyle Larson's lead, and coming to the white flag, Larson left the slightest gap open in turn 1, and without hesitation, Bell struck. Forcing his way past Larson and taking the lead down the backstretch, in a last-ditch effort, Larson sent it into the final corner, throwing all caution to the wind, but it simply wasn't enough. After leading only one lap all night, Christopher Bell survived and became the second driver ever to win the Chili Bowl 3 years in a row. Kyle Larson had the chance to make up for being robbed of a potential win the year prior, but this time he lost it all at the last possible lap. Kyle was super disappointed at his failure, and in an interview with FloRacing, his wife Caitlin revealed that an incensed Larson left her alone in their motorhome after she asked him why he let Bell pass on the final lap. 2020 saw Larson take a bold move in his approach to the race, stepping away from the dominant Keith Kunz team to partner up with his longtime sprint car acquaintance Paul Silva in their own entry. Kyle picked up exactly where he left off, winning his midweek A main, as did Bell. Larson started third, Bell started second, and this time they were both behind the pole sitter of Tanner Thorson. Bell dominated the first half of the race as Larson was locked in a duel with Thorson for P2. But once Larson cleared Thorson, he made a beeline for Bell, and following a late restart, Larson pulled no punches and muscled his way past his arch nemesis for the lead. Despite multiple restarts, Larson would not be deterred, and after 3 straight years of watching Bell win, it would be Kyle Larson that took the checkered flag and won his very first Golden Driller. 2021? Once again, both men won their respective mains and both men started second and third, this time behind another pole sitter, Justin Grant. This race was dominated by Larson, but in the dying laps, Bell got by Justin Grant for P2, setting up yet another Bell versus Larson duel for the 4th straight year. In 2019, Kyle Larson lost the Chili Bowl after making a mistake while trying to keep Bell behind on the last lap. However, that would be inverted in 2021, as coming to the white flag it would be Bell who made the mistake chasing Larson, and the price he would pay would be way worse than a P2 finish. Bell hit the cushion at the top of the racetrack midway through the final corner, and this caused him to lose control of the car and resulted in some violent flips that left his car completely cooked. With his rival in the gutter, Kyle Larson cruised to a second straight Golden Driller. Neither man would win the race again until 2025. Bell's car owner in NASCAR, Joe Gibbs, had finally lifted his restriction on his drivers doing dirt races, which allowed Bell to compete on dirt for the first time since 2022. Before the Chili Bowl though, both men got an opportunity to relive their dirt rivalry at the Tulsa Shootout, an event held at the track the week prior featuring micro sprint cars. Both Bell and Larson made it to the main event of the non-wing Outlaw class. Bell would take the lead early but then lost it to Steven Snyder Jr., who had driven all the way from 21st to the lead. That lead was short-lived as he clipped the wall and gave himself a flat. As Bell re-inherited the lead, Kyle Larson, who started mid-pack, sneaked into P2, setting up yet another duel for the win between the pair. Larson aggressively ran the high line to get a run on Bell and did just that into turn 1 on the last lap to set himself up for the backstretch. Bell went low and drifted high while Larson committed low, leading to a near photo finish with Bell's momentum up high, seeing him beat Larson to the line. Bell would carry the momentum of this Tulsa Shootout victory into the Chili Bowl by winning the Race of Champions, an exhibition race held during the week. However, it was Kyle Larson that was the better of the two over the course of the week, winning his midweek A main, while Bell had to make it to the main event via a Saturday B main due to not finishing his midweek main in the top 2. While Bell qualified 12th and finished 10th, Larson dominated to win his third Golden Driller, putting both men at 3 apiece. The dirt war these two had even trickled into their stock car careers too. Allow me to explain. In 2013, a NASCAR National Series had a race on dirt for the first time in over 40 years. The Truck Series went to Eldora Speedway for what was dubbed the Mud Summer Classic. Kyle Larson was seen as a great person to put money on to win this race given his background, but the first 2 editions of the race saw him come up short. He lost out to Austin Dillon in 2013 due to a late battle with Ryan Newman that allowed Dillon to pull away. In 2014, he failed once again to win after making mistakes while chasing race leader and eventual winner Bubba Wallace late in the race. With 3 laps to go, Larson actually hit the wall so hard that instead of limping to a P2, his now destroyed truck ended up being classified in P26 as he pulled to the pits while on the white flag. To add insult to the injury of losing these races, Christopher Bell participated in the race in 2015 in what was just his 3rd ever NASCAR race, as I mentioned earlier. With no Kyle Larson entered that year, it was Bell who won the race for Kyle Busch Motorsports in his very first attempt. However, in 2016, both men would compete in the same race for the first time. Larson sought to right the wrongs of 2013 and 14, while Bell sought to win 2 Mud Summer Classics in a row. Both men raced up at the front, but Larson faced adversity midway after a left rear puncture caused him to go a lap down. He eventually got back on the lead lap, but the two of them had another threat to worry about: Bobby Pierce, a dirt late model lifer making his 2nd Truck Series start. The first, this race last year, where he shocked everyone with his competitiveness. But after Pierce got involved in a late race crash, it was Larson versus Bell once again. And this time, Larson kept his head straight and controlled the race from Bell on a late race restart to finally win the Mud Summer Classic at Eldora. By 2021, both men were competing in the Cup Series full time. Larson had been going Cup racing for 7 years while Bell was in his sophomore season and his first with Joe Gibbs Racing. Meanwhile, a race would join the Cup Series schedule that was seemingly perfect for both men and this video itself. Bristol Motor Speedway was covered in dirt to host the Cup Series' first race on dirt since 1970. Bell and Larson were marketed in the lead-up as the two to watch given their history on dirt tracks, but in the inaugural running of the Bristol dirt race, both men didn't even see the finish. Not only that, but they dropped out of the race in the exact same accident. During the first stage, Bell ran high, lost grip, and spun, causing Larson, who was directly behind him, to go right into the side of his number 20 Toyota, killing both of their cars and damaging some others. In 2022, they'd take on the race again with the new NASCAR Next Gen, and both men had a good showing. Larson won stage 1 while Bell kept himself in the top 10 for most of the day. They'd both get a top 10 finish as Kyle Busch snuck past the wrecking pair of Chase Briscoe and Tyler Reddick to win the race. 2023 ended up being the last edition of the race, though no one really knew at the time. Larson went from dominating stage 1 to spinning on his own during the final stage, before ultimately wrecking after contact with Ryan Preece, who was seemingly paying him back for an earlier incident. This wreck also saw Larson accidentally take out Jonathan Davenport, one of the best dirt late model drivers on the planet who was making his Cup debut. While all of this was happening, Christopher Bell remained in contention for the win all night, and was locked in a fight for the win with another Cup driver who cut his teeth on the dirt scene growing up, Tyler Reddick, the same Tyler Reddick that missed out on victory last year on the final lap. Bell assumed the lead, and despite being hounded by Reddick in the dying stages of the race, he held his own and crossed the checkered flag to win the Bristol dirt race, his 2nd NASCAR win on dirt, and his first since Eldora 2015. Anyways, the culmination and latest entry to this rivalry is actually what sparked me to create this video, a sprint car race in Volusia. A few weeks ago, both Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell were on the entry list for that week's Dirt Car Nationals at Eldora Speedway. For the first time in ages, we'd finally get the battle fans have been waiting for. Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell in 410 sprint cars, and that's exactly what they got. Kyle drove his trusted number 57 car prepared by Paul Silva, while Christopher Bell drove the number 69K for Creets Racing. The Dirt Car Nationals is a 4-day event with a main event race each night. The best driver of the week is crowned the Dirt Car Nationals champion. The races that week also serve as rounds of the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Championship, meaning these guys were up against top-tier sprint car names like Carson Macedo, David Gravel, and Buddy Kofoid. Night 1 saw Bell drop out with car problems and Larson scoring a 3rd place finish after starting a bit lower in the field than usual. However, Night 2's main event gave us the fight that led me to create this video. Bell started the main event from the lead while Larson was on the 2nd row. Bell led early but lost the lead to young up-and-coming dirt star 20-year-old Emerson Axum. Axum dominated the race until 4 to go when he spun off of turn 3. This promoted Bell back to the lead and Larson to 2nd place. A 3-lap duel in 410 sprint cars between two of NASCAR's top drivers was about to begin.
Larson goes to the top out of 4, looking for a run on leader Christopher Bell, who slides himself into 1 and 2. Larson tries to turn it back underneath. 2 laps to go. They race to the white flag out of turn 4, nose to tail. Bell will slide up the racetrack. Larson tries to cross underneath him. At the line, Christopher Bell wins it. Kyle Larson 2nd.
And just like that, the two stars crossed the checkered flag in an ending almost identical to their battle at the Tulsa shootout just a month prior. Christopher Bell, in one of his first starts in a 410 sprint car in years, was back to winning ways by just 0.05 over Larson. This was Bell's 6th ever World of Outlaws win. However, the next night would see round 2 of their duel.
Feature action underway at the Federated Auto Parts Dirt Car Nationals. Now Bell to the inside of Sam's for 2nd. Give it to the 69K. Kyle Larson is finally a winner at Eldora Speedway Park. Christopher Bell 2nd.
And just like that, Kyle Larson got his lick back on Bell and scored his first ever win at Eldora while doing so. A rocky final day saw Bell miss the main event as Larson would win the final race, bagging the 37th win of his World of Outlaws career. With that victory, he also won the Dirt Car Nationals itself. And there you have it. In my opinion, this is racing's most amazing and overlooked rivalry, one that can be defined by the popular phrase, "Anything you can do, I can do better." And funny enough, the same day I ended this script was the same day the world got to see the two of them duel for a race win once more. But if this video is anything to go by, I'm sure Larson will get his lick back soon. The two will be locking horns at other sprint car races this year. We as fans just have to watch and see how they're gonna wow us next. My name is Intern, I talk wheel, and thanks for watching.